Hello everyone, I'm a Consequence here with episode 5 of my high-level Dungeons & Dragons campaign playthrough. And this is the player character roster. There are 7 characters being run by 5 different players. And here is the roster of both human and animal NPCs associated with the party. Where we left off last time, King Belvar was hosting another dinner for the characters. However, this time the dwarf, Sir Hamelin, was invited as well, since he was the overall winner of the jousting tournament. During the dinner, Sir Hamelin told a strange tale that he had heard just before departing his home in the mountains to come to the tournament. He said some dwarven miners returned from a prospecting expedition during which they had discovered a dungeon made entirely of metal. The entrance was initially sealed, but then the metal doorway suddenly opened up on its own. A few of the dwarven miners went inside to investigate, but the door soon closed behind them. The door opened up again several hours later, but by then there was no sign of the dwarves who had entered. The remaining dwarves decided not to enter the place, but instead return home and report what had happened. Since the characters are such experienced adventurers, King Belvar asked if they would be willing to investigate this strange, all-metal dungeon. They said that they would, however they first wanted to get construction work started on the buildings they were planning for their new barony. Just as a reminder, circled on the left map is the region which King Belvar has parceled out for the characters to assume control over, and on the right is a zoomed-in view of the same area. And here is a mini-atlas I created, giving the players a brief description of the existing settlements within the new barony. The details given here I just compiled from various sources I found online. I don't even remember them all now. The characters chose as the barony's capital the small village of Batlet. There are other places within the barony which are better developed and more fortified, but the players wanted something of a blank slate to work with. They also chose this site because a defensive stone tower already exists there. The tower would provide some level of security while construction was underway, and it would be incorporated into a much larger fortification which the characters were planning to build. In short, the characters are planning to construct a Motte and Bailey castle as the barony's seat of power, and the existing stone tower would be converted into a gatehouse at the main entrance. You will recall that King Belvar had warned the characters a strong defense would be necessary because the barony lies directly across the river from the Horn Society, which in turn is heavily influenced by the Kingdom of Ayus. At any rate, the characters were eager to visit their new barony and get construction started on the Motte and Bailey fortification. So, now that the public games were over, next morning the characters took leave of King Belvar and set out for the place. Notice that the NPC engineer Hammond is now traveling with the characters. The whole reason they've kept him around since he was rescued from the hill giants was to utilize his expertise when this moment finally arrived. Circled at the bottom left corner here is Furiondi's capital city of Chendal, where the characters are now. And their destination is the new barony, circled here in the upper right. The distance is far, a few hundred miles, and the characters spent about a week on the road getting there. Their first destination was the town of Heldarn, the largest in the new barony. It was here that they began contracting for the purchase and delivery of construction materials, as well as the hiring of laborers to do the actual work. I did not roleplay all this out because I didn't want to spend our limited game time on these types of mundane tasks. I just told the players that as long as they were willing to spend the money, they could obtain the necessary materials and labor. And speaking of construction and labor costs, I derived that information from really old-school resources, like this page from the Judges Guild rating ref sheets, first published in 1978. And also from the AD&D Castle Guide, first published in 1990. And if you're enjoying the content, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Next, the characters set out for the village of Batlet, where the construction would actually take place. I did not have a village map of Batlet prepared in advance. Instead, I just provided a large empty space located next to the river. The only structure I placed on the map ahead of time was the previously mentioned stone tower. I then allowed the players to sketch out their planned construction based on that, and I began dropping terrain graphics onto the tabletop. Here is a slightly zoomed-in view showing the defensive ditch, which will encircle the settlement area. And on the right is the artificial mound upon which Aramis's keep will be built. A second defensive ditch will be dug around the mound. And pointed out here are the four corners, which define the keep's footprint. It is approximately 60 by 100 feet. Now, in preparation for this video, I invited the players to generate and submit AI illustrations of the buildings each of their characters is planning to construct. And here is an illustration of a stone keep, which Aramis's players submitted. Next, pointed out here is an outline of a stone tower, which Thorol the Wizard is planning to build. And here is the illustration he submitted for the video. Next, pointed out here is the outline of a tavern/gambling hall/import-export business that Obrak the Dwarf and Garrett the Thief are planning to build. Just as a reminder, those two characters are run by the same player. They plan to take full advantage of all the travel and trade which occurs on the adjacent river, just off screen to the south. And here are a couple of illustrations which the player submitted for this video. That's Obrak tending bar, while Garrett escorts a new guest eager to try his luck in the gambling hall. And pointed out here is the outline of a cathedral, which Niall the cleric plans to build, dedicated to her deity St. Cuthbert. And here is the illustration which she submitted for the video. In summary, the player's ultimate vision for their Motte and Bailey settlement is similar to the model depicted here. In addition to the characters' own buildings, NPCs will be invited to build businesses and homes within the defensive walls. And of course, this is expected to generate a lot of tax revenue to support the entire operation. Now, you may have noticed that I did not mention Gorbadoc the Halfling or Varys the Elf while discussing plans for the Motte and Bailey. And that is because they do not plan to build anything there. Instead, they intend to build at the currently deserted village site of Pangate, located several miles north of Batlet. They want to revitalize the location and turn it into a thriving tourist destination. And this is where things take a bit of a gonzo turn. Believe it or not, Gorbadoc and Varys intend to build a yacht rock club right on the riverfront. And although this AI illustration shows a palisade wall, they are not really planning much in the way of defensive works. Instead, they will actually welcome guests from the Horn Society, located just across the river. The idea is to make this such a popular destination, open to everyone, that the Horn Society would never dream of attacking it. Why ruin a good thing? And this also explains why Gorba and Varys want to build far away from Baron Aramis and his Motte and Bailey. They don't want to be under his watchful eye while they conduct their, quote, business operations. Now, just to be fair, Aramis's player is fully aware of all these plans, but he's willing to indulge it, at least for now, just to see how everything plays out. And here is another AI illustration created by Gorb's player showing the club's interior. That's Gorbadoc seated on the bar, while Varys leans against the wall in the background, smoking some of his elf fruit. The idea here is to show the diverse clientele, all of whom will be welcomed at the club. At any rate, with construction now fully underway, the characters decided to return to the Furiandi capital of Chendal. All told, they had been away for about a month of game time. And here, the characters are seen riding into the courtyard of King Belvar's townhouse. They planned to update him on everything they had done at the new barony, and then see about this so-called all-metal dungeon, which he had asked them to investigate. One last detail to point out, you will notice that the NPC Engineer Hammond is no longer with the characters. He was left behind at the barony to supervise the entire construction project in their absence. Alright, well that's how for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, and anything to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.